Well, sustainability today is a really broad subject. It covers things such as biodiversity, modern slavery, greenhouse gas emissions. And we work with a range of businesses, particularly in the supply chain and retail space. They're actually struggling with this. Many of them want to do the right thing, but we find they just don't know where to start. I'm here today with Carmen Vicelich. Carmen is the founder and CEO of Generate Zero, and she is a global expert and thought leader in the area of sustainability. So, Carmen, great to have you here. Can you just give us a little bit of background about your journey and how and why you started Generate Zero?
Thanks, Pete. My background is I'm an impact-driven entrepreneur, and I really believe in combining the best technology and the best data that we can make the world a better place. And we really saw the need that this was a groundswell requirement that was becoming more and more important for everybody to be able to measure, manage and reduce their carbon emissions. And the only way to do that is to really leverage technology and data to digitise that and be able to scale that. So we were really excited to launch this last year and really deliver a solution that really could deliver managing impact.
And I believe you've been at COP28 and other forums recently?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing and really proud moment because we didn't realise how what we were doing was just so leading edge and pioneering. And so being invited to speak at a conference at New York Climate Week where Sir David Attenborough was opening the conference and share what we're doing, really the first in the world of this example showing and measuring finance emissions, measuring scope 1 and 2 in a data science-based approach, and then also recently speaking at COP28 as well, which was incredibly powerful and just really, really proud moment.
Great. One of the key things we consistently hear for businesses is, why should I get started now looking at emissions in my business? What guidance would you give to our customers that are asking these sorts of questions?
Well, that's a really good question, Pete. And the answer to the question of when should you get started and why is really yesterday. Because we know that regulatory compliance and mandating these requirements is coming. It's already in New Zealand in banking and insurance, and it's certainly accelerating globally. And at the same time, in combination with that, your customers expect it. We're seeing, globally that everybody has the right to choose, and they are expecting to have transparency and visibility and that you're doing your right thing for the planet and values-based approach. The third thing is it's actually going to take you longer than you think. So you do need to have 12 months of data. And so getting that ready and starting as fast as you can.
So the short answer is I need to get started pretty much straight away.
Yesterday.
A consistent theme that we come across time and time again is that there are a range of different standards, regulations, measurements. We're talking about things such as ISO, B Corp, and just a plethora of others. What would your advice be for businesses in this part of the world is what's important to know and understand in getting started on the journey?
I think there's two things that businesses need to know in order to deliver to the standards. The first thing is that actually there are real global standards. So we're looking at greenhouse gas standards, ISO standards, as you mentioned, importantly, there are science-based targets, and that is that you can't just come up with what you think your carbon emissions are. There are actually data requirements, and you've all heard the expression greenwashing, I'm sure, and that's where actually it becomes more important than ever to have a validated approach. And I guess importantly for you is that Generate Zero are the experts in this space. It's constantly evolving, and that's what we bring. So we are the experts, and everything that we do is for a global standard, and it is a data and science-based approach that if it's investigated and if it's regulated, you can actually have all the answers.
So for businesses struggling with this, the key message here is actually go to an expert that can help you on the path.
100%.
So, Carmen, we hear a lot about carbon emissions, carbon offsets. Can you tell us what's the difference here and why is it important for businesses to know and understand the difference between the two, and how can businesses actually go about starting reducing their carbon emissions?
There is a big difference. So offsetting is one thing. So if you want to plant some trees, buy some offsets and do your bit to make a contribution there, that's really great. But what regulators, what consumers, what the world cares about is actually all of us have to reduce our carbon emissions to actually make a difference. And so that's only possible if you're measuring, managing, and then working through how you're going to go about doing that. And that's where AI is incredibly exciting, because it enables you to do that, it enables you to have dashboards to see how you're progressing, enables it organisationally and culturally to be a change, to say, actually, this is the difference that we're making. And then once you've got that measurability, then you can even actually know what kind of offsets you require.
Unfortunately, one of the consistent themes that we do here is that I know I should be doing this, but I don't really want to have to start the process and actually have to pay for it. What have you seen for businesses getting started on this journey that are actually able to take a sustainable competitive advantage from doing the right thing in regard to reducing their carbon emissions?
That's a really great question, Pete. And there's so many pioneers and thought leaders really leading the way and creating a new paradigm of how actually we can really change the way we do business with a values-based approach that's good for planet and good for business. And some of the great examples are Amazon, Walmart, Unilever. I got to meet one of the amazing leaders from that at COP28. Zara, so even fashion brands are all showing us that you can actually do both. And I think that's what, we have to recognise, that actually you don't want to be second and your competitors are doing this first, but most importantly, your customers, your consumers, your supply chain, everyone expects this, and it's up to us to lead the way.
Yep. Look, one of the great comments I heard was from the CEO of Patagonia, who said every time they force themselves to do the right thing, they actually got a much better business result.
100%.
So Carmen, the acid test, what are the implications for businesses that aren't taking action in this space?
That's a very good question. And we all know that change is really hard, but actually this is one of the things that you have to do, and it's actually going to be very transparent. And there's massive implications. So obviously from a regulatory compliance, once it's mandated, if you can't actually deliver to those, there are fines, you are going to be named. Publicly in New Zealand, for example, NZX companies have to report on this. And the implications actually go on beyond that to finance and actually for lending, to insurance, and also to actually selection at a procurement stage. So we're seeing that actually on contracts, that contractually they want to be working with companies that are measuring their scope emissions and actually are reducing and managing that. And I think most importantly, it's going to come down to also your customers. Companies want to choose companies that are doing the right thing and that are taking action, and saying, well, it's too hard, or, I don't want to do that, is really not going to be good for brand.
Yep. So in summary, really, customers are going to start making the decision for you, and you're going to pay the price if you haven't got your act together.
Exactly. And I think any of us that have children recognise that actually it's the younger generation, and that was also a massive takeout at COP28 and even at New York Climate Week, that it's the younger generation that really cares, that wants that transparency, that wants that visibility, and has that expectation that, we care about our future, so you have to make a difference.
Absolutely. Getting a little bit more technical now, could you talk me through what the difference is between spend-based and activity-based reporting, and what's important about understanding the difference between the two?
Yeah, that's a good question, Pete. And spend-based is very much a little bit more higher level. You can look at your invoices, and that's certainly, the way that this all started. But actually, activity-based is much more powerful, much more detailed, and much more relevant. And I'll give you an example. You might know what you spend in your invoices, and what you spend on petrol. And there was a great example that Google did around planes. They spend this much on petrol, but they can actually use AI to look at the activity of how those planes went, and really measure how they can reduce carbon emissions. So you're still going from A to B, from one place to another. You're still going in the most, using that same amount of petrol, you're spending the same money, but the vapor trail that was leaving of carbon emissions can be reduced by AI actually measuring your altitude and making you dip up and down as you're going to that destination, and just slightly changing the destination route for a significant difference. And that's just one example of how activity is much more powerful than just measuring your spend-based approach. And those are the requirements that the regulator's wanting to see from a mandating perspective.
So for businesses that are in this, really they should be focusing on activity-based measurement, because that's the format that's going to give them more accurate, more meaningful data from which to base their decisions and their plans.
That's correct. So businesses are required to measure, monitor and reduce their carbon emissions, and the only way that you can really do that is actually to have that level of detail. The exciting part of this is that actually having all that data enables you to make data-driven decisions as a business. So you can increase your operational efficiency, reduce your costs, increase your return on investment, and really make future planning and make decisions that are data-based to make the best difference that you can.
So the good news is we know a lot of businesses now have sustainability teams within their organisations. My question to you is, why would businesses look to use a business like Generate Zero when potentially they could look to do this sort of thing themselves?
Well, actually, Pete, the reason that we started Generate Zero is that most businesses can't do this themselves. They don't have the data's in lots of silos, and they don't have the experts that are able to actually build the measurement, the monitoring, the reporting that's required, and especially to the level of detail and compliance that's needed. And so that's where the value-based approach that we're really bringing is actually bringing AI, bringing technology. It's a cloud-based approach, it's a digital workflow, bringing platforms, bringing dashboards that can leverage the best of AI, machine learning, cloud, and also our experience in working with disparate sets of data to really accelerate and digitise this process. And that saves so much money and delivers a much better outcome.
So the essence here really is harnessing expertise. What is your core business?
Exactly, and Pete, just as you're an expert, Extolla knows what they're doing and really knows your space. We're experts in this, and it's really about combining the best of both worlds, and really no one can be an expert in everything, and this is such a fast-moving, fast-evolving space. The requirements and the data that's going to keep evolving, Internet of Things, there's going to be more and more that's required, and the ability to reduce carbon emissions, we're using really advanced machine learning that can actually predict and allow you to drag and drop in a dashboard and really start testing out the models to really see what's going to make the biggest difference for your business. And all of those things help you achieve your goals faster.